I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.
Hello there, Price of Reason here with a movie review. Those of you who are familiar with my channel know that in recent years, I haven't been too happy with the movies and shows that we've been getting from the big Hollywood studios. Whether it's the blunt messaging, divisive politics, or poor storytelling, it's really hard to find a studio these days that understands its audiences and also delivers high-quality productions within reasonable budgets. That's where Angel Studios comes in, a Utah-based media company that specializes in crowdfunding for movie and TV projects that carry a more positive message. And while Angel Studios, which operates independently outside the Hollywood system, is often underestimated by the mainstream media for whatever reason, I myself am frequently impressed with them, as they not only provide some great counter-programming to Hollywood, but I actually think that their unconventional business model is quite revolutionary, and their engagement with their viewers and investors is very refreshing. That's why when Angel Studios had released Sound of Freedom last year, this channel was one of the first to review that movie and recognize its potential, and indeed, it ended up being the surprise hit of the summer, making over $250 million worldwide against a $15 million budget. And last week they released their newest offering, Cabrini, a period piece biopic about historical figure Francesca Cabrini. In this video, I will go over the general plot of Cabrini, what I liked about the movie, what I didn't like about the movie, followed by my official score. The movie starts off in the late 19th century in Rome, where Francesca Cabrini, a missionary nun, tries to convince the Pope that she needs to travel to China to open an orphanage for poor children, followed by many more orphanages that she would then open all across the globe. While the Pope seems somewhat skeptical about her plan and how she could even realistically pull it off, he tells her that rather than going to China, she should start off by going to New York City and opening her first orphanage there. But when Cabrini arrives in New York, she quickly learns that in order to achieve her goals, she will have to overcome some extremely difficult hurdles. Between the male-dominated church politics of her day, New York City crime and poverty, the discrimination she faces as an Italian immigrant in America, New York's mayor working against her at every turn, and her suffering from a potentially fatal lung disease, Cabrini's project seems to suffer setback after setback, but she never gives up on her dream. Let's start with what I liked about this movie. When it comes to my preferred genres, it's no secret that I usually gravitate more towards movies that include science fiction, action, fantasy, comic books, or adventure. And although I genuinely respect the efforts of Angel Studios, I wasn't initially sure how I would feel about this specific movie. While I knew very little about Francesca Cabrini's real-life story going into this movie, reading that she was eventually declared a saint after her death, I had concerns that the movie would play it safe with its storytelling, that it would end up being a rather cheesy and sanitized affair, or that it would perhaps be heavy-handed from a more religious perspective. Thankfully though, I'm happy to report that I was pleasantly surprised by both the nuanced writing and the more objective tone of the movie. It doesn't shy away from showing the grim reality that Cabrini has to face in New York City, but it also knows when to highlight her resilient personality as she overcomes very difficult challenges. And the movie achieves this balance in such a sincere way at times that even a grumpy and cynical man like myself couldn't help but feel a bit inspired while watching it. And what I especially liked about the movie is that its story feels very universal and could be appreciated by pretty much any person of any gender and of any religious background. It's the type of movie that Hollywood used to make before it alienated so many of its moviegoers, and if it was released 10 years ago, it likely would have scooped up some big industry awards too. The irony here is that with all of Hollywood's preachy, modern-day fifth-wave feminism and smash the patriarchy propaganda, this movie is so much more genuine in showing us a real-life, strong woman who is able to stand out amongst men and earn their respect, not by acting like a victim, not by blaming them, but through her actions and the merit of her work. Another aspect of the movie that I liked is the directing. Alejandro Monteverde, who also directed Sound of Freedom, shows once again that he is a very competent director, even when he's working with a relatively low budget. And while I wouldn't say that this movie's $50 million budget is necessarily a small one, I doubt that any Hollywood studio today could make such a great-looking period piece for less than 100 or 150 million. The movie absolutely looks like it's taking place in the 1890s, and the overall directing is stylish and impressive. The casting for this movie movie is also a success. While veteran actors like David Morse and John Lithgow are solid in their supporting roles as expected, the main heavy lifting here, acting-wise, is done by Italian actress Cristiana Dell'Anna, who does an excellent job playing Francesca Cabrini, as she makes you like the character and also want her to succeed. If I had to point out any flaws in the movie, I would say that it is perhaps about 15 minutes longer than it needs to be, especially during the final act, and while it didn't take away from my overall enjoyment of the movie, I do think that some tighter editing towards the end there could have improved the overall pacing a bit. All in all though, I think this movie accomplishes what it sets out to do. It tells the story of Francesca Cabrini in a comprehensive way, while also delivering a positive message overall. As somebody that enjoys movies about superheroes myself, in a way, one could say that Cabrini herself had the attitude of a real-life superhero, which is something that I can appreciate. After all, she acted selflessly and just wanted to help people in need, and I think that's a very noble goal to have. I also find it interesting that in order to do so much good, Cabrini had to be extremely resourceful and in many ways completely ahead of her time. Not only did she decide to launch an entire operation in a country that was completely foreign to her, she understood the value of good management, building relationships within her community, politics, and even good public relations at a time when these things weren't obvious, especially for a woman. It's quite intriguing to learn that in order to eventually be seen as a saint after her death, during her life, Francesca Cabrini needed to be such a shrewd and thick-skinned businesswoman, something that the history books tend to gloss over. And those of you that are familiar with my channel know that I don't often give scores above 80, but given the sincerity and quality of Cabrini for its specific genre, I would give this movie an 81 out of 100, which means that I not only think that it's a good movie, but I also recommend it, especially if you like inspiring biographical period pieces. Also, if you found this review helpful and you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing and getting notifications. I always try my best to give a more unique and less mainstream media analysis in my reviews, and if you're into that sort of thing, perhaps you'll enjoy some of my other reviews. In any case, thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, and good day.
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos. But